Growing up in the DC skater scene in the 1990s, the big fight was, are you more of a punk guy or are you more of a metal guy? This would play out at our parties. Somebody would put in a metal CD, they'd put in Metallica, and then the punks would start rolling their eyes after a while, and they go pull out that CD and throw it out the window and put in Rancid. And if we're driving somewhere, the same fight would happen. But we'd all hang out together pretty much, and we're all the skater kids, but there's definitely that divide. Now, as an adult, looking back on some of that music, still listening to some of it, I've become Christian and specifically Catholic now. So I was trying to think, it might be an interesting exercise to ask, which would Jesus be? Would he be more of a punk or a metalhead? So I'm going to look at it a little bit like, what are the good parts of both of these scenes? Like, what kind of virtues are they putting forward? And also maybe what are their downsides and downfalls? So let's start with the punk scene. Within that, there is kind of the virtues of it, I think, would be like a sense of brotherhood. Here we are, like kind of us against the world, resilience. You're being beaten down, but you're standing up for what's right. Sort of an example of that is Bro Hymn, I think, is for like the brotherhood angle and the togetherness. This is one like we'd play at a lot of parties. I remember when my friend got married, he kind of dropped out of school early, had a couple kids. And so we were still, I think, late teens or something, and he had a wedding, and we played this and had like almost like a mosh pit or like a arms around the shoulders at a wedding playing this, but it's very much like sticking together kind of thing.
To all my friends present, past and beyond, especially those who weren't with us too long. Life is the most precious thing you can lose. While you were here, the fun was never ending. Life a minute was only beginning. Captain Colvin Nichols, this one's for you! Never get that feeling you can go on. Just remember the side it is that you're on. You've got friends with you till the end. If you're ever in a tough situation, we'll be there, no hesitation. Brotherhood's our rule, we cannot bend. When you're feeling
So you get a sense of that. As you can tell, it's kind of like an uplifting sort of a thing. I think I was always drawn more to the punk side in this debate because it just seemed much more like I was already kind of like down about things, and I wanted something to like lift me up and more direct my anger or whatever outside, not beat myself up even more. Like I feel like metal kind of gave me that vibe. But this one, that chanting there, oh, that was big. I went to Pennywise concerts a couple times. Punk concerts in the 90s were like $10. We'd take the metro to downtown DC, and we were pretty young, but we try to like sneak beer in and actually talk to these Pennywise guys at one of the concerts. I was sort of on the side where they were. There's like a fence between us, but my friend had drank so much he had passed out, but I was sober enough to where I could chat with them a little bit, and at least the drummer, I talked to him. But this was their iconic one where the whole crowd just chants it. It gets real rowdy. But yeah, that gives you kind of the vibe of brotherhood that I think is one of the virtues of punk. And another of my favorite bands, Social Distortion, from that era. They have a lot of really catchy songs. As you'll see with the punk ones, the musicianship is pretty simple. It's just power chords and not really anything too crazy. It's hard rock, like punk and metal are both hard rock, but punk is just much simpler guitar parts, and it's just kind of uplifting, but like it's almost meant to sound like a little not perfect and simple and quick. So this one is another virtue I think of punk is sort of that resilience. So I think this one is about how, you know, I was wrong when I was a kid. I did all these messed up things, but basically I emerged through it all and I learned lessons. And there's a lot of songs with that theme as well. Yeah, it's a little introspective, and you know, it's not all uplifting because like here's all the terrible things I did, but it's sort of in the punk way. It looks at all the gritty parts of life and says, kind of, we're gonna get through it. Where these virtues can go wrong is it's all very rebellious. Like the outside world doesn't understand us. We're fighting against them. We're tearing down the system. Don't tell me what to do. Ever. So that was something I lived. I think I've talked about that in a couple other videos. But from 5th grade, I kind of just decided I'm going to be this skater kid. I'm going to be a juvenile delinquent. You know, I'm going to just ignore everything. And I was kicked out of schools and I had to go to juvie and got in trouble with the law a bunch of times and got into substances, lots of fights, lots of all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it was, you know, this was kind of our soundtrack is like, don't tell me what to do. I'm just going to figure out things my own way. I'm going to break things if they look like they're meaningless to me and you know, basically just screw you. Yeah, everybody else. So Minor Threat, they're an interesting band. They're actually from DC. Ian Mackay, however you say that. I knew some people who knew him, but he was like Fugazi and Minor Threat. Both of those were big bands that he had started. Very angry stuff, and but he was an interesting guy. Like he had kind of a straight edge scene he did for a while. I know he drank with people later. But just to give you this idea, this song's called I Don't Want to Hear It. It's basically I'm sick and tired of all your lies, don't talk to me. But this is kind of like another layer where you get to as a punk kid. Yeah, so as you can see, the musicianship is not always pristine. It's kind of meant to sound like I'm in a garage somewhere and we're just playing this and we hit record on our little like tape recorder thing, and now that's what you get. And then maybe just for one more, just to show kind of the rebellious vibe. I feel like Rancid was our Metallica. Like if you're in metal, Metallica was like the main band you listen to. Maybe some people from 90s skater punk would disagree, but I feel like Rancid, their early stuff, like the self-titled one, and the Give 'Em the Boot, and all those Out Come the Wolves, especially. All those albums were like our soundtrack early. Rancid then later got more popularized, like they became more of a famous band. So did Metallica, but both of them started off in like a pure, not as polished version that I think people liked. So this is kind of early Rancid when they were young punk rock kids. This is probably my favorite album of theirs. It's the one with the gun on it. I just call it One with the Gun. I think it's self-titled, but yeah, it's pretty punk. But you see, like, the chaos of it is like one guy like sprayed beer in the camera, this guy spray painting the wall, he's got a baseball bat. The whole thing is just like, we're walking around causing chaos here, seeing we don't respect anything in anything around us, anybody around us. That was definitely, I've been in some crowds like that, just walking around, we're just looking at everything, breaking things, just every day you're stealing things, you're hurting things, you're fighting people, so my point is that brotherhood that they've got, and that we're gonna win, we're gonna defeat the system and rise above and all that. To its negative side of that virtue is when I think you get very destructive of yourself and other people and other people's property and all of that. Just looking back, it's a wild scene. It's a wild scene. So I would say, starting off with punk, you've got that vibe, kind of positive, in that you're like upbeat, you're aggressive, you're like confident a little more in yourself and being aggressive to those outside and fighting the system or other people or whatever. And now we could switch over to metal. I would say the main virtues of metal are in kind of an introspection, a look at the problem of pain in the world. You're authentic and genuine, and that you're not turning away from the dark sides of life. War, oppression, just terrible things that happen, people's lives just being horrible because they're abused, people suffering in the world for whatever reason. They're very attuned to how life is hard. And so maybe if punk is a little bit more rebellion against injustice in the system and other people out there, metal's a little bit more of an interior rebellion against being itself, against God, against against how dark the world is. And there are a lot of songs that are, I think, pointing to real problems. And Jesus, I think the virtues of this, he would recognize, like, they are really pointing at the dark parts of life that he came to address and to shine light into and heal. And they're shining light on those parts. So I'll just show a couple things. This first one is Four Horsemen, which is, I guess, a reference to the Bible, obviously, Book of Revelation. And this is Metallica, although Megadeth has a version too called Mechanics, but I think this is better. So I'll stop it there. But you can see, no offense to my punk heritage and people, that still love punk. I still like a lot of punk, especially the bands that I showed you. There's a lot of them that I think are trash now. They just don't have the same talent. But you can see the level of thought that goes into good metal is really, really much more. And I still actually, even though I was more on the punk side growing up, Metallica and Megadeth and things like that has really grown on me over time. So you can just see the thought that goes into the musicianship here, the references to the Book of Revelation and the weaving in these different parts of the different four horsemen and how that ties into horrible things happening on earth, like talking about pestilence and famine, and they show people, in war, and war is a big theme in metal music, kind of how dark it is, how hard it is for people, but just suffering in general. So, I mean, I think that's really a good thing about metal is it makes you look at the dark side of life, don't look away from it, and address that. And another one that's also about war, but you got to do is the Megadeth Holy Wars. That whole Rust in Peace album is a masterpiece. Like, if you don't know much about metal, just get Megadeth Rust in Peace album, find it on YouTube or whatever, and listen through the whole thing. That is probably the best metal album. I've heard a lot of metal, and a lot of it I don't really like. It's just noise to me. But the musicianship on that, Dave Mustaine's voice is a little annoying to some people. I find it fine. You get used to it. But he was kicked out, Dave Mustaine, out of Metallica. So he has a lot of that same thrash metal vibe and some of the same themes and all of that. Like the song we just heard, like I said, they have he has his own version of that because he said he wrote it before he got kicked out of the band. They have a few like that. But this one is from that Rust in Peace album. It's called Holy Wars. And I'll skip around a little bit in it maybe, but it's pretty awesome. It's another one about what's going on in life. We got war, we got why are people fighting for God? Would God want that? Why is there so much suffering and evil and all that? But a pretty powerful song, and the musicianship on it is next level. I'll skip ahead just a little bit because it's a long song, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. Now I'm just going to show you the solos because there's no better solos I've ever heard. So yeah, that's metal. You're really focusing on don't look away, look at these hard, terrible, evil parts of life. But what I'll show you next is it can kind of swallow you up a little bit. Like you focus on that so much, then it can cause despair. If you have nothing to pull you out of it, like I think Christ came, so he goes into the darkest places and then gives us something to hope in to pull us out of that place. A lot of these people that I knew who got really into metal got pulled further and further into just dark places where you're focusing on imagery of skeletons and demons and wearing all black, and you just kind of get taken over by darkness. So maybe one I could point to there I thought of. Alice in Chains, I would say, is not fully a metal band. They're kind of like grunge, alternative, something like that. But every metalhead that I knew loved Alice in Chains. So they were probably like the most mainstream thing that all of my metalhead friends liked, where it was Alice in Chains. So I kind of put them in my mind with all the metalheads love Alice in Chains. And I love Alice in Chains too. Dirt, that album, and also whatever the one with Man in the Box. Those are both really good albums. But you can see from this, like Lane Staley, was that his name? The guy who was the main guy, but he died of a heroin overdose. And the guys that wrote a lot of these songs, you can just tell, you know, the heroin induced depression and despair that goes into all their songs. But this one is called Them Bones, but it's just how you're just a pile of bones that's you're born into the grave. This whole life is just this meaningless moment of suffering that you're about to pass through. But just to give you an idea of what sometimes focusing on all that dark, real stuff without any hope can get you. What time signature? Like, yeah, it's kind of an odd time signature there. You can't really bop your head to it that easy. But I love Alice in Chains. It's very unique sound, raw. The song Rooster, that's a really good one. Another war one. I didn't want to do too many war ones. But I'm just playing that largely just because it really shows kind of like the despair that comes from just that life is dark and tough. To really make that clear, and you know, this is probably, most of you are going to think this is just noise, but there were a lot of people I grew up with. They started that with the thrash metal, Metallica, Megadeth, all that, Pantera, and then they moved to a lot of them to black metal, which is like a lot of it's like in Scandinavia, and it's just, I don't know. It's really dark stuff though. Like pretty much everybody I knew who got into that either like got into opioids and OD'd, or they committed suicide. I don't want to say that's like a cause of the music, but it's sort of maybe part of like what your mindset is in this kind of despair, because it's like despair with no release from it. So life is pointless. It's dark. I hate it. Where do you think that's going to lead you to? So this is Old Man's Child. There's another one like Dimmu Borgir and Iced Earth, and there are all these ones. But I remembered this song because I actually kind of like the guitar work in it, but it's sort of seems just evil listening to it. Like if Evil had a soundtrack, you'd be like, okay, that's probably what Satan bumps in his car when he's driving to 7-Eleven or something. Is this? But yeah, just to give you an idea. those are the synthesizers. I'll just give you a second of that. But yeah, those ones always, as you get harder into metal, they do just kind of things with their voices that just sound bad to me. Like death metal is like, whoa, 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 and then black metal is like kind of like a, almost like a witch or something screeching at you. You know, I think metal has so much higher levels of musicianship. A lot of them are like classically trained musicians. Like Dave Mustaine can play Beethoven. I think he did something at like the LA with the LA Symphony or something where he's playing Beethoven on the electric guitar with a symphony. So they're very talented musicians. I just couldn't get past the I hate myself, I hate life. Let me just turn in on myself and be all dark and brooding. It's like I had that stuff in me and I was trying to force that anger and darkness out and project it onto something else, and so I didn't destroy myself. I mean, I kind of did anyways, because you destroy yourself that way too. So that's how punks and metalheads, I feel like they're both trying to rebel, they both have a lot of anger, they both see a lot of problems, and they both are trying to strike back in a way. But I think the metal's a lot more self-destructive, and punk can be a lot more destructive towards the outside world. Like we're gonna be all right. We're gonna get through this, and by destroying the things that are evil. So I always just thought that was a superior mindset in my mind, the punk mindset. But you can see like with that hyena video where they're just walking around destroying everything. Like you do that, you just go to jail. Like that's you go to rehab, or you're just chugging beers and popping pills and stuff all the time. Yeah, you go to rehab. You smash a bunch of things, get in fights, you go to jail. That's just how it works. It ends up being self-destructive that way too. But either way, you know, you have those virtues, the virtues of punk, brotherhood, resilience, fighting what you see as bad out in the world, and then the virtues of metal, where you really focus on evil and shine a light on it, on say, here's all the darkness, and you know, be introspective about what is wrong kind of with reality as such. Both of those, I think, are good impulses, and then, as I was saying, they can both go drastically wrong too. But I still love both in their sort of purest forms, where I get some of that feeling of the virtues within them without too much of the downside. I still love punk and metal, and I think, you know, which one would Jesus prefer? I don't know. Maybe he'd listen to some Megadeth and then some Rancid, and then, you know, whatever. Probably, I think both of them have virtues and vices. So really this was, you know, just a way of me getting you to listen to this video, because I don't know that there's a real answer there. So if you enjoyed this video, just subscribe, like, share it, and maybe you'll see something a little more substantive from me a little later.